Dear students, welcome you all for the fifth session of the second chapter of GST, sixth semester Mangalore University. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss the concept of aggregate turnover under GST. So let's see what we are going to discuss in this session. So we are going to discuss aggregate turnover, its meaning, then inclusions in aggregate turnover, then exclusions in aggregate turnover, then format for calculation of aggregate turnover. So let's see the meaning of aggregate turnover as per the GST Act. So according to GST Act, Section 2, Subsection 6, aggregate turnover is the aggregate value of all taxable supply, except excluding the value of inward supply on which tax is payable by person on reverse charge basis. So that is excluded. Rest all is included in taxable in the meaning of aggregate turnover. It also includes exempted supplies, export of goods or services, or both, then interstate supplies or persons having the same permanent account number, then to be computed on all India basis, but exclude central tax, state tax, union territory tax, and integrated tax and cess. So aggregate turnover means it includes all the taxable supplies, including exempted supplies, including export supply, including interstate supply, everything is included, and it should be computed on all India basis. So throughout India, whatever the supplies that you have made, it should be included in the meaning of aggregate turnover, but it will not include all the GST that is paid. Now let's see what is included in aggregate turnover. First one is taxable supply, both intra and interstate supply. Then interstate supply to sister concern or interstate supplies between distinct person having the same PAN. So distinct person means he may have multiple registrations in different states or within the state, but the PAN number is same. So that person is called as simple person. Then zero rated supply, so including export supply and supply to SEZ. Then nil rated supply, then exempted supply, then non-GST supply, then taxes other than GST, then goods supplied to job worker and supply made directly from job worker's place. So this is included in aggregate turnover. So that means every supply is included. Almost all the taxable supply is included in aggregate turnover. Now what is excluded in aggregate turnover? So first one is, as discussed in the meaning, inward supply. So that is interstate and intrastate from registered person. Inward supply means it is purchase. So if there is any purchase made, it is excluded because GST is taxed on the supply of goods and services, not on the purchases. Then value of inward supply of goods and services on which tax is paid on reverse charge mechanism. This is also included. So if the buyer itself pay the tax instead of seller paying the tax, that is also included in the excluded in aggregate turnovers. Then amount of CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and compensation cess. If any taxes are paid, that is excluded from aggregate turnover. Then goods supplied for job work and received back after the job work. So that means you are sending the goods to job work and you will return it, so there is no supply, so that is also excluded from aggregate turnover. Then transactions which are neither supply of goods nor services. So there may be some transaction which cannot be considered as a GST supply, okay, because which will not come under GST Act. So such supplies also excluded from aggregate turnover. Now let's see some important meaning of some concepts. So first one is taxable supply. So what is taxable supply? As per the GST Act, taxable supply means a supply of goods or services or both, okay, in which leviable to tax under this act. So this is the meaning of taxable supply. So in simple words, so whatever the supply of goods or services which is on which tax is levied or on which GST is levied. Then exempt supply. So what is exempt supply? So exempt supply means supply of any goods or services or both which attracts nil rate of tax or which may be wholly exempt under this act. So that means there is no tax on such supplies. So why? Because it may be because of the decision taken by the GST Council for many reasons. Then nil rated supply. So here nil rated and exempted supplies, they are different in nature. So exempted supply means they are exempt from tax. So that means in future they may not be exempt. So but nil rated means here tariff is nil. So tariff is nil due to which there is no tax. Okay, so that is nil rated supply. So whereas in case of exempted supply, the tariff is greater than 0%. So here tariff may be either 5%, either 28%, but that is exempt from tax. So that you have to remember. This is the difference between nil rated and exempted supply. So exempted because it is exempt because of the notification issued by the GST Council. So nil rated supply means your tariff itself 0. So exempt supplies are exempt through exempt notification. Then zero rated supply. So what is zero rated supply? So zero rated supply under GST means any supplies made by a registered dealer as an export. So if you make an export, then on such export there is a zero rate. Both goods and services also included, or supply to an SCZ it also qualifies for zero rated supplies in GST. So if you are making a export, and also if you are supplying goods to SCZ, then on such supply there is zero rate. Then what is non-GST supplies? So non-GST means it is not included in GST. So as per section 9(1) and 9(2) of GST Act, the following are non-GST supplies. First one is petroleum products and second one is alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So this is not included in the purview of GST. Then supply to distinct persons. So we have already discussed that. So means a person who has obtained or is required to obtain more than one registration, whether in one state or one union territory or more than one state or union territory. So that person is called as distinct person. In simple words, a person who has the same PAN number, permanent account number, but has different registrations in different states or within the state. So this is the format to calculate aggregate turnover. So what we have to do is we have to add all the supplies: taxable supply, exempted supply, nil rated supply, zero rated supply. All these supplies should be included and added to the value. Then from that value we have to deduct tax and compensation cess under GST Act, then inward supply, then supply under reverse charge. Then you will get the aggregate turnover. Based on this, we can decide whether the person has to be registered under GST Act or not registered under GST Act. So it is just done to find out the limit, whether you are crossing the 40 lakh limit or not. So that's all from this session. Thank you for watching this video.